Hi guys, I'm at work, so if you see me moving around or leave, I apologize.
Thanks, Leah. All right, well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Public Health's virtual education series, Wažookį Wažookį, Family Conversations. I'm Renelle, public health nurse, joined today by Jamie, public health worker supervisor, who will help moderate today's session. The goal of the series is to gather, learn, and share about Ho-Chunk culture, resources, services, and the connection to health. In public health, we focus on prevention, promotion, and the protection of the health and well-being of our communities. Health and well-being are rooted in many aspects of our lives, from our physical body, our mental health, our spirit, the environment we live in, and much more. During these sessions, we will explore topics that can impact our health and well-being. Together, we will learn about tools and resources to improve our health and the health of our communities. Please remember that our weekly schedule has changed to account for our summer block parties. So please keep an eye out on Facebook, TOB emails, and the Wažookį for our monthly schedules. And we hope to see you in person at our summer block parties. Today, we're happy to have Heidi Neely from the Alzheimer's Association. She will be discussing how we can keep our minds strong and understanding Alzheimer's and reducing risk together. We'll have about 45 minutes for Heidi's presentation, followed by a Q&A. Please use the chat function to enter any comments for our presenter, and Jamie and I will monitor the chat throughout the presentation and then read the questions for Heidi at the end. You can also raise your hand and come off mute during the Q&A to ask any questions out loud. If there are any questions that we don't have time for, we will email to Heidi and then respond to the group. This session is being recorded and will be shared on the Department of Health website and the Facebook page. Everyone, please welcome Heidi Neely.
Welcome,
Hello.
Heidi.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Hold on 1 second. I have someone in here that has a hard time hearing, so if you guys could speak just a little bit louder, I'd appreciate it.
All right. Ready to go. So I love the mission of your presentation series that you're doing, and I hope to accomplish everything that you've said throughout my presentation. And I am absolutely open to questions and any comments that you may have. So Alzheimer's, we're going to talk about what is it? Is it aging? What are the symptoms? How it affects you? How to reduce risk? So let's get started. The first thing I want to show you is some new facts and figures from 2025 that are shocking. We are now over 7 million Americans who are living with Alzheimer's. We're at 7.2 Americans with living with Alzheimer's or another form of dementia. As you look at some of these different facts, it kills more than breast cancer and prostate cancer combined. 1 in 3 older adults die with Alzheimer's or other type of dementia. The middle one in the orange, between the year 2000 and 2022, deaths from heart disease decreased by 2.1%, huge win. But deaths from Alzheimer's disease have increased at the same amount of years, 142%. Some of the dollars that are involved in 2025, Alzheimer's and dementia will cost our nation $384 billion. And that's in 1 year. While by 2050, these costs could rise to nearly $1 trillion a year. When you look at the lifetime in the green and the right side, 1 in 5 women at age 45 is at risk for Alzheimer's, while 1 in 10 for men is at risk at age 45. And then near the bottom in the green, nearly 12 million Americans provide unpaid care for people with Alzheimer's or other dementia, which these caregivers then are providing more than 19 billion hours free, valued at $413 billion a year in unpaid care. And up to 4 in 5 Americans feel optimistic, though, about the new Alzheimer's treatments that are up, and we will briefly talk about those today. And 92% of Americans would want a medication to slow the progression of Alzheimer's following a diagnosis. So let's get going and learning about what this all looks like. So looking in your community, the Native Americans and Alzheimer's disease, by 2060, the number of American, Indian, and Alaska Native individuals 65 and older living with dementia is projected to increase 4 times. So that number is absolutely staggering. And so the Alzheimer's Association, we are trying to figure out what is going on and stop it. And we do that by accelerating global research. We are the world's largest nonprofit organization that does global research. We're in 6 continents, 57 countries. We have $430 million active right now for grants and putting money towards over 1,150 different research projects with the brightest minds throughout the world. We are trying to find a cure and better treatments. We are talking and driving risk reduction, early detection, maximizing quality care and support. We just heard yesterday that here at Madison, it was just approved that more funding, that one of our key asks that we had on advocacy days, that our volunteers came to the Madison Capitol and asked for more funding, and it was approved yesterday. It was so exciting. We are trying to maximize quality care and support throughout the state. And if you see that symbol, I always wondered what it was, but it's a dual symbol. It represents the human head and a beaker, emphasizing that people and science are behind our cause. So next. So we're going to talk about the different ways, and you can see here at the bottom, how we do that. We do it through our care and support, and I'm on our care and support team. We have our advocacy that I just talked about. We have our awareness and our marketing. We have the research, and we also are very heavily focused on diversity, equity, and inclusion, because this disease of Alzheimer's does not affect everyone the same. The numbers are not equal. In fact, the Black Americans are twice as likely than whites to get Alzheimer's. Women, 2/3 are women that have it. Our Native Americans, our Asians, and our Hispanic cultures are 1.5 times more likely to get Alzheimer's. Why is that? We don't know. So we have the dollars going towards research, and we're going to talk about why that is so important and why we need more people involved in that. All right, next. Now we want to make sure we're on the same page. So when I talk about Alzheimer's and dementia, are they the same? Are they different? So when we talk about dementia, we are talking about symptoms. So if you could say, oh, they're repeating themselves, or they're having a hard time finding words, or they're having behavioral issues or psychological issues, like maybe they're wandering or having anxiety. Those are symptoms. That's dementia. They have symptoms, they have dementia. Well, what causes the dementia? That's where the word Alzheimer's comes in. Alzheimer's is the disease that causes 60 to 80% of dementia. It is the greatest cause of dementia. That's followed by vascular disease, Lewy body disease, frontotemporal, and others like Huntington's disease. One of the hardest things for doctors is when we go in for a diagnosis, sometimes they're like, well, wait, you have this symptom, but wait, what? Somebody might have what we call mixed dementia. You could have Alzheimer's and Lewy body dementia, or Alzheimer's and frontotemporal dementia. So that's what it is dementia is the symptoms. And what is the cause? Well, Alzheimer's is the most common cause. And I love, though, the point in the bottom left that says not everyone with cognitive decline has dementia. Some causes of cognitive decline are reversible. And I want to highlight this point because people may start having memory concerns or stuttering over words and word finding, and they just ignore it. But we talk about early diagnosis all the time, because you may go in and your doctor may say, oh, you're having sleep issues. And because of the lack of sleep, you're having cognitive issues. Or your medication is too high, or have high blood pressure issues, thyroid issues. There may be a number of reasons why you have cognitive decline. So getting in early is absolutely crucial so that you can rule out all the other issues that may be causing that cognitive decline. So getting in early is absolutely vital. Right, next. So Alzheimer's specifically, it is a brain disease. It causes problems with the memory. That's the biggest thing we think about. The thinking, our behavior. Symptoms eventually grow severe enough to interfere with daily tasks. It is a progressive disease where symptoms gradually worsen over a number of years. And in the early stages, memory loss is mild. Usually it just affects the short-term memory. But as the disease progresses, individuals will need round-the-clock care. And ultimately, the disease is fatal. Next. So when I talk about Alzheimer's, we are researching these two main hallmarks of Alzheimer's. Is it the main cause of Alzheimer's? Maybe. It is a huge area. 25% of all research is basically on these two proteins because we know they do cause damage and they do affect Alzheimer's. But there are some people with both of these proteins in their brain that have never had a symptom. So it's like, but this is a two hallmarks. When people say, what is Alzheimer's? They'll talk about this beta amyloid plaque and this tau tangle. And basically what it is there are two proteins in the brain. The beta amyloid sticks to the outside of the neuron cells and the tau is on the inside of the neuron. So when you have a thought coming down, like a neuron, and your thought's like, I need to go to the store and get some milk and some bread and and has to rewire, so you're looking for the word. It's because these plaques and tangles are interfering with that thought process, that emotion, the behavior. They're getting in the way of the communication of those neurons. And if you look at number 3, the healthy brain, nice and full and solid, and the advanced Alzheimer's, you see this amount of shrinkage and the dark areas. That's cell death caused by these plaques and these tangles. So as you can see, when these cells dies, you're losing the pathways to communicate, to think, to store memories, and those areas are gone. And that's what's happening in the brain because of these plaques and tangles, as well as other things that we're researching, that whether it's misfolded proteins or the communication of those cells or vascular issues. There's many other areas that we are still researching, but these two proteins are hallmarks of Alzheimer's. Right, next. Now, when we talk about Alzheimer's, we like to talk about it as a continuum. On the green, that's asymptomatic. There's no symptoms, you have no idea you may have it. Mom, dad, brother, sister may have had it, so you're at maybe a higher risk, but no symptoms. But what could be happening is those changes from those proteins or other issues can be affecting your brain for up to 20 years before symptoms even start. So when we say get in and get an early diagnosis, you're already decades behind the game because the changes have already been happening in your brain. So when we say early intervention, get in ASAP, need to ASAP because the changes have been happening if it is due to Alzheimer's. Now moving into the orange section, MCI, mild cognitive impairment. Now, this is the place where all diseases of dementia start. This is the place where the symptoms are starting to appear. I like to look at MCI in 3 different buckets. The first bucket is what I already talked about. It can be reversed due to like medication mismanagement, sleep issues, thyroid, high blood pressure, and it can be reversed. My mother-in-law had cancer and she was starting having memory issues. She was repeating herself and I'm like, oh no, cancer and Alzheimer's. But once she was through her medication treatments, her cognitive decline improved and she came back to normal. So hers was reversible. Then a couple months later, the tumor came back. We went back to take care of her. Same symptoms started again. I'm like, oh, maybe it really is. Well, this time it was due to mismanagement of medication. She was pouring all her medication into her little candy dish. She was just kind of like, oh, I forgot to take these pink ones yesterday. I'll take 2 of them. It's like, you can't do that. So because of mismanagement of medications, she was having cognitive decline. So that's one of the areas. The second area of MCI is it stays the same. You get some cognitive symptoms and for the rest of your life, you stay at that level. Well, the third MCI category I like to look at, it progresses into further issues due to a dementia causing disease. In this slide, it shows dementia due to Alzheimer's disease. And we break it down into these 3 categories, mild, moderate, and severe. So mild It's just these symptoms you have, whether it's your thinking, your memory, your emotions, your behaviors, anxiety, they're interfering with some of your daily life, but you're still fine. You're driving, you could be working. It's still just kind of interfering a little bit. Well, then you get into the moderate stage where it is interfering with many of your activities of daily living. And then severe, of course, it interferes with most, if not all, daily activities. All right, next. So when we talk about mild cognitive impairment, we have taken this questionnaire and the different ethnic groups they surveyed known little or are not familiar with at all mild cognitive impairment. And on that slide, it talked about the whites, the Asians, the Native Americans, Blacks, and Hispanic Americans. And all of them, about 82%, were not even familiar with mild cognitive impairment. And that's where it is so important to know it, because that's the stage you've got to get in and talk to the doctor. So, all right. So what are those symptoms that we're seeing in mild cognitive impairment? Let's talk about those. All right, next. And we're going to talk about the 10 most common warning signs. And look at the next one. And the first one we see here is that memory loss that disrupts daily life. That's usually the one. It's like, oh, they keep forgetting things, they're losing things, they're repeating themselves. I want to go through these briefly, 1 through 10, and look at, is this Alzheimer's or possibly is it a typical aging symptom? So we'll kind of talk about what's the difference between each. Okay, number 1. So memory loss that disrupts your daily life. So most common sign of Alzheimer's is forgetting recently learned information. So that could be those dates, the events, asking the same question over and over because to them, it's the first time they've asked it. You have to rely more on memory aids, reminder notes. We use Alexa at our house. You know, different things that you easily could remember before, but now it's being more difficult. Well, what's a typical age-related change? Well, sometimes forgetting a name or an appointment, but the key here is you remember it later. It's like, oh, that's right. I remember, I forgot. It's that going back and remembering. If it's Alzheimer's, it's just like, yeah, I don't remember that at all. I don't think you told me about it. That's kind of the difference there. All right, number 2. So this is one of challenges in planning or solving problems. So some people may experience change in their ability to develop and follow a plan or work with numbers. Like you're the one who is an accountant or you're the financial person in the family. Easily could do it all the time, but now you're starting to have issues following that family or familiar recipe or keeping track of monthly bills or paying monthly bills multiple times or stacking up of bills that you're not getting to because you just is too much. Difficulty concentrating, taking much longer to complete a task. This is where you easily could have changed a tire or changed the oil, and now it's taking you hours and hours, or like my husband has what's called Huntington's disease. It is a dementia disease, and he's in the mild to moderate, and he could go out and change an engine on a Jeep. Give him a couple of weeks, he'd be done with that. But he now needed to change a bumper on my car because he backed into a tree. And it has been over a year and we're still not done with the process. I'm still letting him do it. And I want him to be able to be as independent as possible. But where before he would have had that done in a day easily, it's been over a year and we're still dealing with some of the issues. So what is a typical age-related change? Well, that's occasionally making errors with finances or those household bills, but you can figure it out again later. So that's the occasional thing. All right, number 3. So this is the one with difficulty completing those familiar tasks. People living with dementia commonly have difficulty completing just a daily task. So driving to a familiar location, that could be one of the very first ones. I got lost. I've gone there for 20 years and I got lost. Or organizing that grocery list, or remembering the rules of the game you always play. It's like, wait a minute, how do I play that again? But what's typically aged related? Well, occasionally needing help to get those settings on that microwave again, or to record that television show. Something you don't do all the time. It's not a familiar thing, but you have to go back and, oh, that's right. That's how I had to change it for setting the time forward or back. All right, number 4. So this is a very common confusion with time and place. So I know when my doctor goes, or my husband goes to the neurologist every 6 months, she always asks him, what's the date? What season is it? What's the year? Some people that as it progresses, they lose that. This is also, though, not fair for those who are retired. I'm like, it's not fair to say what day is it, because every day's the same. They're all Saturdays. They're all time off for them. So seasons, that one they could ask. That's totally fine. But having trouble understanding some if it's not happening immediately, or they forget where they are or how they got there. It's like, I'm not home. Where am I? How did I get here? That type of thing. But what's typical age? We'll get it confused about the day of the week, but figuring it out later. Oh, they're like, oh yeah, that's right. Yesterday was Sunday. You figured out later. All right, number 5. So trouble understanding visual images and spatial relationships. This isn't one too many people would think is tied with Alzheimer's, but it is huge with all types of dementia. Vision problems is a sign of dementia, and it may lead to difficulty with balance, trouble reading, problems judging distance and determining color or contrast, which may cause issues with driving, of course. So when we're born, our vision, if you put your hands straight out to the side and wiggle your fingers, you should be able to see your fingers wiggling. And as you get older and you bring your hands closer and closer, that's kind of your range of vision is shrinking. Well, those with Alzheimer's, their vision and the way their brain is affected and the areas of their brain are affected, their vision actually goes to tunnel vision. So seeing to the side, seeing below them, above, very difficult. So if you go into a friend who has Alzheimer's and you go in the door and you come up behind them or to the side of them and like, hey, how are you doing? And they're shocked because they may not have heard you and they did not see you. And they may get really upset and angry and mad at you because you surprised them, because they didn't see you. So we, as care partners and friends of those with dementia, we need to be aware of these things and walk in front of them, walk way around and get in front of the person. Even if they're in a chair, kneel down on the floor and get eye to eye with them so that they can see you. And then you introduce yourself. Hi, I'm Heidi. I'm your spouse. Don't make them like, hey, do you know who I am? Remember me? Never do that. You introduce yourself. You set that calm tone. Hi, I'm Heidi. At their level in their vision, especially too when you talk about people with hearing issues. And it depends on the part of the brain being affected. If they didn't hear you walk in and then you startle them, there's a lot of times I know at facilities where a caregiver may come in and startle the person with dementia. And then on their clipboard, the caregiver will say, oh, they need more medication because they're out of control. I'm like, no. You as a caregiver need to learn tips to walk around, make sure they see you, get down to their eyesight, make sure they hear you, and introduce yourself. So some very important things and easy things that we can do. When we talk about color, red is the very last color that's lost. So little by little, they lose all color and red's the last to go. So when you think about a bathroom, you walk in, you have the white walls, you have the white floor, you have the white sink, you have the white toilet. So you don't have to wonder why men use the garbage can as a urinal, because that's the only dark hole they see. So what if we got a red toilet seat, which you could find online, or got a red rug to outline the toilet so that they can see that contrast? So, and also difficulty with balance and walking. A lot of different dementias have that problem because of the part of the brain that's being affected. My brother-in-law, who has Huntington's, he is only 64 and he has a walker right now. But even with a walker, his issue is that he's falling backwards and he's falling sideways. So even with a walker, he's had 2 brain surgeries since November because of huge bleeding hematomas because of balance issues. It's very sad. But what is a typical age-related change? Cataracts. That would be absolutely typical. That's not dementia-related at all. All right, number 6. New problems with words in speaking or writing. Totally normal, where they middle of a conversation and they get stuck. They have no idea how to continue. And so that's where we want to jump in and give them the word. But when we do that, then they listen to the word we just gave them, and then they lost the train of thought that they had, and they have no idea how to get back to whatever they were saying. So just stop and give them time to complete or find that word they were looking for. And this is where they will start repeating themselves, asking questions over and over again. But to them, it is the first time they've asked. So that's where we have to have extra patience. And like, yep, 2 o'clock. Yes, it is today, 2 o'clock. 5 minutes later, yes, it is 2 o'clock. Good question. Just go with it. This is where you could struggle with vocabulary, like, oh yeah, where's my time, my wrist clock, instead of a watch. They might have to they start inventing words for things and have trouble naming those familiar objects. They use the wrong name. Well, what's a typical age-related change? Well, sometimes having trouble finding the right word. We all do. Our brain's just like, what's the word? Depending how much sleep we've had, of course, or our blood sugar levels. There's many reasons why we may have trouble finding right words, but we'll find them. We find them, and that's totally typical with age-related issues as well. All right, number 7. Misplacing things and losing the ability to retrace. Retracing is the key here. So people with Alzheimer's or dementia may put things in unusual places. They may lose them and unable to backtrack their steps to find them. That's the key here. They can't go back like, oh yeah, I went to the garage and then I had my purse and then, oh yeah, the phone rang. That's why I went into the office and my purse is in there. That's why. They're unable to do that. And this is where they can start accusing people of, well, somebody stole my purse. I know I put my purse here. I know my wallet is here. I know my glasses or keys are right here. I always put them here, because they cannot go back and retrace how the item got there. Well, typical age-related is misplacing things time to time, but we can retrace the steps to find them. All right, number 8. So decreased or poor judgment. May experience changes in the judgment, decision-making when dealing with money, especially. My mother-in-law had a stranger come up to her house in California, knock on the door and said he needed money. Gave her some sob story. He got in her car and she took him to her bank and tried to get money out for him. But luckily the people at the bank knew her and called my sister-in-law out there and just said, hey, your mom's here with this guy. Do you know anything about this? And she's like, no, I don't. So unfortunately, that is a huge thing, is dealing with money. So some of the things I've heard is give them a wallet and just keep a couple dollars in a wallet. So they always know that they have a wallet with some money, or if they still are able, give them a credit card, but maximum $200 in there, or $100 or $50, whatever it is they're expenditures are. Give them some ability to use money while they can still use it, but limit it. So I heard way too many stories of people taken advantage of. So this is also a time where people start paying less attention to grooming or keeping themselves clean. I already took a bath 2 weeks ago. No, it was just yesterday. So that's where we too is just like, oh, time to go shave. If we're going to go get something to eat, but on our way, we're just going to swing in here real quick and do a quick shave on you, Got to learn some tricks with that. Well, what's typical age is making a bad decision, a mistake once in a while, like neglecting to change that oil in the car. So we still obviously forget some things or have poor judgment sometimes. Number 9, withdraw. This is a big one. As dementia changes occur, this is the ability to hold or follow conversations get more difficult. And so as a result, they may withdraw from hobbies, social activities, other engagements. They may know things are going on. I know, like with my brother-in-law, he knows the word finding, he knows his balance is off, he knows trying to follow the conversation. He said this and he said this, and the processing is in his head. It's too much. So he's totally withdrawal to where he's at home and he can have friends come over one at a time. Can't have a lot of people, too much commotion, too hard following. So when you think about that, especially with the holidays and your loved one has Alzheimer's or some form of dementia, make sure if they're with the family, make sure there's an area that is quiet, that they can just go and be by themselves, or maybe have one grandchild at a time, go spend some time with them, but keep it nice and quiet, that kind of what they're used to. Also, trouble keeping up with a favorite team or an activity. They did it all the time, but their mind just cannot keep up with it anymore. Well, what's typical age is sometimes I just don't want to go to that engagement, that social thing, family thing, totally normal. All right, and number 10, changes in mood and personality. This does not happen badly for everyone, actually. I've met 2 women who said that their husband with Alzheimer's went from their whole marriage of being grouchy to now has Alzheimer, and they're pleasant and kind. And one of them, he says, he always kisses my hand now. He's such an English gentleman. He was never like that before. So that's what I always pray for. But people living with dementia may experience mood and personality changes, especially the confusion, suspicious, depressed, fearful, anxious, easily getting upset at home with friends, especially when that's somewhere that they're new, they're not used to, they're out of their routine. That is definitely a time when they may get upset. But again, not everybody goes through this, but if they do, it is totally different levels as well. Well, what's typical age? Well, developing our specific way of doing things and getting irritable when our routine is disrupted. Typical aging. All right, so next. So those are the 10 signs that when we start getting these are MCI, mild cognitive impairment. You start noticing 1, 2 of these, 3, you definitely need to get in and you need to talk to your doctor. So what does that look like for us? And this is just the recap. 10 signs are just the guide that may be related. And again, get in early so you could rule out other issues, thyroid, high blood pressure, sleep issues. You may experience, or individual may experience, 1 or multiple of these in varying degree. You do not have to have all 10 of them. You may only have 3 of them. You may have 5. Everybody is totally different. And if you notice any of these signs in yourself or someone else, go see a doctor. All right, so next we're going to see what that looks like. Go ahead. When we talk about this early detection, I like to talk about it, this also in 3 buckets. Medical benefits. If you get in early, you have access to current treatments. And we have 2 infusions now that keep you in the early stage up to 36% longer. Huge win. Huge, huge, huge win. You don't want to keep somebody in the middle or late stages. You want them in the early, so get in ASAP. You also have an opportunity to participate in clinical trials. Some of these doctors are very hard to get in, 9 months, 12 months to get in. But if you're in a clinical trial, you have the best medical testing at your fingertips, and they are taking good care of you. So that in clinical trials is huge. You're not only getting the best care for yourself, you are also helping find cures. If it may not be for yourself, but for your children, for your grandchildren. My brother-in-law, my husband, they're all in trials, and whatever the trials and cures are for Huntington's right now aren't going to help them, but it's genetic. I have 3 nieces and nephews. Our son, our other 2 children may have it as well. That's why my brother-in-law and my husband are in trials, is for our children and to find cures for them. Also, you get to prioritize health making and lifestyle changes. This is now where we eat so much better, exercise so much better. My husband every night is playing on his phone Sudoku and backgammon, brain challenging activities to continue to challenge his mind, make new neuron connections, being social as much as possible. So making health priority. The second bucket is emotional and social. We have more time to plan for our future and access resources. The reason I work for the association is because I wanted to learn what it is to be a caregiver. What is dementia? I had no idea. It was not even in my vocabulary. My mom has MS. My dad has diabetes. That's what I knew. I had no idea about dementia or Huntington's. So I used to be a teacher. And when this job came up, it's like, all right, let's go learn about dementia and what it is to be a caregiver. I'm so glad I am, because I know about resources. We are planning for the future. I know the steps to take from an early diagnosis. So my journey is laid out and navigated, and I don't have to be worried. It's like, well, now what? Now what? Find out now. Find out the resources. Also, time to plan for an end of life decisions. We went from a will to a trust. We got a special needs trust. Another thing with here is we just got as an association last month, well, actually the beginning of this month, a couple weeks ago, we have a new phone app called My ALZ Journey. And if you get this diagnosis, it will show you those resources. It will help you plan. It'll take you step by step what to do. And if like, we just got a diagnosis, now what do I do? Get this phone app, My ALZ Journey, and it's free on Android or your Apple, and it will help you do that. Plus call our 1-800 number 24/7. We can help you navigate and find resources. Also, our dementia care specialists. Every county in Wisconsin has a dementia care specialist that is specific to families with Alzheimer's, and we have tribal dementia care specialists specific to help families find the resources and plan and get the help they need. Phenomenal, phenomenal resources. And then the final bucket is financial benefits. That, like anything, the sooner you find out, the less expensive it will be. So we are planning things, we're making decisions now where we can afford it and not blow our money, but also while it's cheaper and not in the middle of craziness and health issues and trying to make other decisions, just do it now. All right, so when we talk about next is seeking that diagnosis and what does it look like? And go ahead. The different types of doctors, just a quick list. You have our normal PCP, your primary care physician. They're phenomenal in everything. They're trained in such a wealth of different symptoms. You want to see somebody who's trained in the brain. And here's a list: geriatrician, neurologist, neuropsychologist, psychiatrist, psychologist. They are trained in memory, thinking, and behavior. So those are the ones that you would want to talk to when you or a loved one are starting to show those symptoms, that mild cognitive impairment. And then next one will show us when you go to the doctor, how do they diagnose you? Well, 2 weeks ago or so, we just got the first FDA approved blood test. Some people are like, yay, I just need a blood test. Well, this blood test only measures that first protein we talked about, that beta amyloid. That's what it measures. It's been used for years in clinical trials to say, yep, they have beta amyloid in their brain, but it is a phenomenal tool to also add to these 4 things. You'll go in and have your normal physical exam. They use biomarkers. Biomarkers are like insulin. Insulin shows that you have insulin resistance for diabetes, or cholesterol is a biomarker. So we've heard of biomarkers. Well, for Alzheimer's, we have imaging. We have a PET scan that measures, and you may see the pictures of a brain. It might be yellow and green, but then you'll see one that's full of red and blue. PET scans can see those 2 proteins, the beta amyloid and the tau. So an imaging biomarker is a PET scan. You may use a MRI, which is another scan that is structural. It doesn't show the different proteins, but it's structural. Is there damage? Is there shrinkage? Is there, when you're on medications, is there swelling? So biomarkers, imagings are very, very useful. Fluid analysis biomarkers, that's your blood test. That's cerebral spinal fluid that bathes your brain. You can test what's in there. They'll do the neurological exam and cognitive testing. Draw the clock. Now put the 12 numbers in. Now put 230. You might think that's crazy, but they're testing. What is their ability to draw a circle? Is it shaky? Can they close it? Is it flat? Can they count 1 to 12, and can they do it in order? And can they space them appropriately in a circle? Can they do a clock time with a short and a long hand? And do they understand what that means? So even doing that one cognitive test is testing multiple areas and different things that you can or may not be able to do anymore. So they use all of these different things to accurately diagnose or rule out Alzheimer's or some other form of dementia. All right, next to the excitement of treatments. Next one. 1906, Alzheimer's His name is Alois Alzheimer's. He described it for a woman he was working with as a student. And this woman had all these different symptoms. And he wrote this paper, and his professor, who was kind of his supervisor, said, you know what? I don't know what this is, but we're going to call it Alzheimer's, named after him. Well, it took, as you can see here on the left, from 1906 to 1996 to get the first medication to help. These first 5 medications only help once you are past the MCI stage. So on the right, you see the continuum, asymptomatic, no symptoms. MCI, you see at the bottom, there's 2 drugs. And then in the purple, these first 5 in orange help when you're in mild, moderate, or severe. And at the top, if they're orange, they treat symptoms of cognition and function. And then the green ones are also just mild and moderate and some severe. Those are mood and behavior. And then what we're excited to look at is these 2 purple ones. Look at, they're in the MCI category. We just started having some symptoms. We now have lecanemab and donanemab. You may have heard of Leqembi or Kisunla. Just last year and the year before, 2 infusions, like an IV that goes in your arm. And these drugs, one of them is Leqembi is every 2 weeks, and Kisunla is every month, once a month. And they are to slow down the progression of Alzheimer's and keep you in the early stage up to 36% longer. Huge win, very exciting. These drugs specifically, they target that first protein we talked about, that beta amyloid. And so we still have a lot of research in so many areas, but this one has been huge wins, just focusing on that 1 beta amyloid. But we are so excited about it. And it's also another huge reason, get in early, because MCI early stage is the only time you can have access to this medication, these 2 medications as well. Go ahead, next one. To get these medications, we've had to have decades and thousands of people in trials. My brother-in-law was in a trial for 24 months. Every 2 months, he had to go in for a lumbar punch and blood tests and scans for 3 days. That's what we think of as a trial. But you can go into Trial Match. You can scan this to find more. It's a free clinical study matching service, kind of like a dating service, but for trials. I can go in and say, and filter it. I am a healthy caregiver. What trials can I be in? Oh, and I did it, and there was 98 that I could look into and read more about. They were like, how about taking a survey as a caregiver about food? How about watching this 15-minute presentation and giving us your input? How about trying this exercise program with your loved one? There's so many different trials right now. And we have over 370,000 users of over 940 trials around the world. And the biggest problem is we need over 70,000 more people to populate the current trials. And that's the number 1 problem with trials, is we don't have enough people in them to run them to find cures. So please think about participating in a trial. All right, next. Just the last couple things I wanted to show you here, underrepresentation in the trials. And if you look at this bottom number, approximately 1% of the American Indians or Alaska Native individuals make up participants in these trials. And these are just the NIH government trials. And so that's nationwide, less than 1% that we have American Indians participating. That number needs to be so much larger, because again, as I mentioned in the beginning, you're affected 1.5 times more likely than white Americans. So we have got to find treatments and cures, but we can only do that when we have more people participating in our trials. So please think about that. All right, next. This is the last area I wanted to talk about, and so important, of risk reduction. Okay. There are 10 areas I want you just to look at here of things that you can do to keep your brain healthy and reduce the risk. If you look at the second bullet point, up to 40% of dementia cases could be prevented or delayed by targeting these modifiable risk factors. That means you can modify them. You have something to do about it. Stay in school, eat right, manage your 4 numbers of your sugar, your diabetes number, your weight, your blood pressure, and your cholesterol. Those 4 numbers are huge. Get them in control. Sleep, get moving. If there's anything to remember, every time your heart pumps, every time it pumps, 20 to 25% of your blood goes around your brain. Every heartbeat, 20 to 25% of your blood bathes your brain. So think about what's in your blood. Number one thing we can do to reduce risk, exercise. Your brain loves oxygen. Get moving. Even if you are watching TV, when there's a commercial, get up and run the stairs. Go to the stairs a couple times or start marching in place. Start small, build it up. But think, what is in my blood? Eat right. What did you have for lunch? A cup of coffee and a donut? Was that breakfast? What are you feeding your body? It is so important for your brain. All right, next. Wanted to show you a few things to write down of resources that if you have questions, please reach out. We have a website, alz.org. Very, very simple. You can get lost on there for weeks. So much great information. alz.org/research. Go on and read and read and read about all the different research that's out there. Join Trial Match. And then especially this last number, our 24/7 helpline. Write it down, put it in your phone. If you have any questions, 2 o'clock in the morning, it's like, oh, my loved one is doing this. Is this normal? Is this aging? Or I started doing this. I have a question. Or we just got this diagnosis. We have no idea what to do. You can call and ask for one of our trained clinicians for a care consultation and say, please help us. We don't know what to do. And she'll spend a half an hour with you and your family, whoever you want, on the phone and navigate your next steps for you. And again, I want to shout out for our new app on the phone, My ALZ Journey. Put it on your phone. I just got a diagnosis. Well, here's step by step what to do. And the great thing about it is you put your zip code in it and it can find resources in your area. So anyway, that is the end of my presentation. And I am now open for any questions you may have.
We don't have any questions in the chat at this time. Leah, I will get you that presentation. Does anyone have anything for Heidi?
Lots of information, and I will give Renelle my information and she can share it with you. So feel free to ever reach out if you have any questions at all.
I have a question.
Okay.
I'm going through this with some family members, and the one that there's the individual that lives with the family member feels like we're seeing signs of dementia. He feels like it's going to make her so much worse, or she's going to be so difficult to live with. If she was to be questioned about her mental status and these kind of things, had those appointments or tests, that she'll be, that he's reluctant to set up an appointment. Do you have any things you would advise to say that in that situation?
Yeah, so if I followed you, their loved one is showing signs and the one who's living with them is hesitant about making an appointment for them?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, very, very common. The person living with symptoms, they don't see it. They don't acknowledge it. Very, very common. There's also something called anosognosia, which means they literally cannot see that they just crashed into a tree and that it's an issue. Like, oh, that wasn't my fault. Something else was the cause of that, my tire went flat or something, or whatever it may be. Is like, I'm not repeating myself. No, I don't have it. But the issue is the very beginning. So there's a couple things you can do. First off, you can't force anybody. Number one, unfortunately, they have their agency. But some of the things that you can do is say, hey, you have your Medicare annual coming up. Everybody should have a Medicare annual every single year, 65 and older. And you could call the doctor ahead of time and just say, hey, FYI, we're seeing these symptoms. Can you please and make sure and do, a brain check or ask questions about it. So you can do that kind of from behind the scenes. Another thing you can do is write down what you are seeing. I love to keep a journal. So every 6 months for our family with my husband's appointments, I have a journal. So when I see symptoms, I've dated it, I've written it down. So when I go to the doctor's appointments, I actually send it ahead of time on my chart because I don't want to say it in front of my husband. But I put it on my chart and send it to the doctor ahead of time so that she can see it. Or if you're going with them the first time, just kind of slide it to the secretary and like, hey, can you please pass this to the doctor? So those are some things, but to get them to the appointment, depending how progressed they are as well. Some of the other things I've heard, if the progression's a little bit more, is you just make an appointment for them. And then some of them have had a friend call and say, hey, we're calling, we see that your annual is set up on Thursday at 12 o'clock. We'll see you there, and just have the appointment made. And they're like, oh, okay. So
I think
unfortunately,
that's where we're at, because we
Okay.
tried the other angle. She did have her Medicare annual exam, and when he called ahead and explained to them all these things he was seeing and asked them to please bring up and do, some
Yeah.
memory testing and stuff, and they didn't do anything when they were there. But instead of saying something, he didn't want her to take out all the wrath on him for
Yeah.
starting everything, so he let it slide. So,
Yeah.
but that's where we're at now, I think, is making a direct appointment and saying we're concerned about memory and seeing, if we can just set up an appointment and then
And again,
tell her
don't go to
right
the,
before it, not telling her ahead, but
yes,
like,
yes.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
like you
and
said,
good
something that
point.
day or whatever. And
Mhm.
all
Yeah.
right, well, thank you.
Yes. And also make sure you go to one of those specialists. Go to the geriatrician or the neurologist who is trained with the old
Right.
elder generation, not just a
Yep.
PCP.
Yeah,
So yeah,
and where we go, I was told that they can self-refer to neurology, so that's what
perfect.
we were gonna do.
Perfect.
Mhm.
Perfect. And you said something that was really important. Don't bring up the appointment to say, oh yeah, we're gonna go out to lunch. Oh yeah, and on the way to lunch, we're just gonna drop by here first, the doctor's appointment.
Right.
Yep. Are they too much anxiety?
Yep, you bet. All right,
Good
thank you.
question. You
Mhm.
bet. Any others? We do have a lot of education programs, and one of them is called 10 Warning Signs. The 10 signs we went through, but the other part of that program is we talk about how to have a conversation with somebody you're worried about. And actually, Renelle, I could send it to you if, I don't know if you have a place to put them, but we have 3 forms. And one of them is you write down the symptoms that you're noticing about the person and all the different things, there's different questions. And the second form is then the conversation with the doctor. What do I have to have in place for that doctor's appointment? So this would be a really good one for you, Holly, if that's the name here on the screen.
Yeah, maybe Renelle could send those our way. Yeah.
Yeah, and then
That'd be
the
great.
third one is how to find a doctor if you need help with that. So really good forms.
Thank you.
Anything else? Well, I will just send Renelle some information that she could share with you. Again, we have I have a virtual presentation series that we do every month. I have 2 virtual classes I have guest speakers, and I have education classes. We have in-person classes. And if any of you actually would like to host a class, I would be happy to come and teach and present a program to you as well. So just reach out. We're here to always be here as a support for you. And we're always free of charge too.
Pina Gigi, thank you, Heidi, and thank you everyone for joining us today. Really exciting to hear about the new treatments that are coming out for Alzheimer's. So I've put up on the screen our schedule for July. On July 2nd, we'll have Robert Mann here to talk about Healing to Wellness Court. And then on July 16th, Candace Dunlap will be presenting on our Community Health Improvement Plan. If you guys have the time, we would appreciate you to scan this QR code and take a short survey, just looking for feedback on how we can improve or any topics that folks would like to learn more about. To go to any of our future sessions, you can use the same link as today, or if you would like to add the recurring calendar invite to your Outlook calendar, please reach out to Jamie and I, and we can forward you off that link. Otherwise, thank you all for coming today. I hope you have a great rest of your day.